Okay, I decided to hop back on, talk a little more. I really like this story, partially because it's Christmas time. Um, Today is Christmas, the eve of Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and then it's Christmas. It tried to snow this year, where I am, and usually if it hasn't snowed, excuse me, if it hasn't snowed by now, then it might around New Year's, maybe for a week. I like a wintry Christmas. I need to move somewhere colder. So I'm not completely satisfied with the current understanding of you get what you give and care for others. So far, the understanding, I mean, it is, the current understanding is you get what you give. Scrooge, by the end, by the end of the story, he's handing out turkeys. He's trying to make everybody happy on Christmas. He's not handing out gifts. He's handing out food and money. Which means that night, people are going to eat good. And more money, which means that they can go do things like buy more turkeys and hand out gifts. Their houses might be warm, all sorts of stuff. You get what you give. Scrooge lives alone. And he's a grump. He hasn't been handing out a lot of goodwill and cheer. So he hasn't been getting much of it either. And care for others. That's also what the story wants to say, I think. Care for others. Because he's crotchety. His friend Jacob shows up and tells him to change and care for others. That's not any big revelation. Scrooge is Scrooge, and he has to care for others. And then it's the Grinch. His heart warms, and then he's a better person. He's healed. But I said it last in the last one. What bugs me is the idea that the ghost of Christmas future could have pushed him into that grave. And Scrooge could have said, Oh no, those ghosts sure do mean business. I'm gonna do what they told me to do. And he could hop up. He could jump straight up out of the grave and run through town handing out money. Tiny Tim will be saved. He won't die. Scrooge gets to live. But at the end of that, I don't think anyone's going to care for his grave. He doesn't have many people in his life. And it's kind of weird that I like the fact that Charles Dickens wrote that it's his nephew is the closest relative. Because I have to admit, it's a bit of a stretch. I can't imagine myself trying to do the upkeep of an uncle's grave. Is Uncle so-and-so all right? I can't imagine. They would have had to have been close. I mean, they live in the same town. How many people look after their old dead relatives? At best, you look after your immediate family that you grew up with. I mean, it paints a picture that Scrooge is kind of alone. So why didn't he? I'm not satisfied. He could have done what the ghost told him to do. But no, this story has this giant revelation where he's scared straight. Of where he's like, an epiphany happens. And I think they want you to point it. There's something about the idea that nobody cared about his grave. Nobody cared that he died. He worked his butt off, apparently. And Scrooge feels like even though he's crotchety, I think he feels like a bit of a philanthropist. He's literally supporting families, even though he doesn't have one of his own. I'll skip to it now. The Ghost of Christmas Present. The Ghost of Christmas Present takes him on a tour of houses, and they go see his nephew, and they go see Cratchit. And at his nephew's house, they talk about him. They toast to Scrooge. And someone I forgot the words exactly, but someone says they do the "and a Merry Christmas to you" toast. And someone says, "Yeah, everyone but Mr. Scrooge, that grouch." And then his nephew, in Christmas cheer, runs over with a glass of wine or something and is like, no, that's you have to be in good spirits. Mr. Scrooge offers us good cheer by contrast. He offers good cheer by contrast. That's his nephew talking. So his nephew thinks his his sourness, his old grumpiness is humorous. He says you can tell where the good cheer is. Be grateful for Scrooge because you can tell where the good cheer is because he's the opposite. Raise your glasses. Maybe he's grumpy, but he got told no. I don't know. I'm gonna read a little bit more. The transformation of Scrooge is central to the story. This is what I'm focused on. Davis considers Scrooge to be a protean figure, always in process of reformation. Kelly writes that the transformation is reflected in the description of Scrooge, who begins as a two-dimensional character, but who then grows into one who possesses an emotional depth and a regret for lost opportunities. The transformation is reflected in the description of Scrooge, who begins as a two-dimensional character, but who then grows into one who possesses emotional depth and regret for lost opportunities. A protean figure always in process of reformation. You can convince Scrooge. Who begins as a two-dimensional character, but who then grows into one who possesses an emotional depth and a regret for lost opportunities. Some writers, including the Dickens scholar Grace Moore, consider that there is a Christian theme running through A Christmas Carol, and that the novella should be seen as an allegory of the Christian concept of redemption. Redemption, which means to save someone. Usually usually that term redemption is used for someone who's gone on a wayward path and isn't a lost cause. They can be redeemed. We can turn them around and get back on the good path. Dickens's biographer, Claire Tomlin, sees the conversion of Scrooge as carrying the Christian message that even the worst of sinners may repent and become a good man. All right. So Scrooge has messed up. His wealth has placed him in a different bracket. His gain of wealth, has placed him in a bracket of responsibility now. With great power comes great responsibility. Scrooge is Spider-Man in a way. Scrooge now has to do something to help the town. Because the wealth has given him power. And he doesn't want to. He wants to mourn his lost family and the fact that the love of his life got away and his friend is dead. He's not thinking about his neighbors. He has to smarten up, and all of that is blinding. He's blinded by grief. Good grief. Dickens's attitudes towards organized religion were complex. He based his beliefs and principles on the New Testament. His statement that Marley, in quotation, had no bowels is a reference to the quotation, in quotation, bowels of compassion mentioned in the first epistle of John, the reason for his eternal damnation. Had no bowels. In reference to the bowels of compassion mentioned in the Bible. Had no bowels. Had no gut. He had no gut for compassion, the bowels of compassion. That must be old speak. That's old poetry. The bowels of compassion, the very lowest of compassion. He didn't have it. And that's the reason for his eternal damnation. Other writers, including Kelly, consider that Dickens put forward a secular vision of this sacred holiday. The Dickens scholar John O. Jordan argues that a Christmas Carol shows that Dickens referred to in a letter to his friend John Forster as his quote in quotation Carol philosophy, cheerful views, sharp anatomization. I've never heard this word. Anatomization, animation, anatomization of humbug, jolly good temper, and a vein of glowing, hearty, generous, mirthful, beaming reference in everything to home and fireside. From a secular viewpoint, the cultural historian Penne Ristad suggests that Scrooge's redemption underscores the conservative, individualistic, and patriarchal aspects of Dickens's Carol philosophy of charity and altruism. Wow. I'm going to read that one more time, but a little faster. Other writers, including Kelly, considered that Dickens put forward a secular vision of this sacred holiday. The Dickens scholar John O. Jordan argues that the Christmas Carol shows that Dickens referred to in a letter to his friend John Forster as his Carol philosophy, cheerful views, sharp anatomism of humbug, jolly good temper, and a vein of glowing, hearty, generous, mirthful, beaming reference in everything to home and fireside. From a secular point of view, the cultural historian Penne Ristad suggests that Scrooge's redemption underscores the conservative, individualistic, and patriarchal aspects of Dickens' Carol philosophy of charity and altruism. From a secular point of view, non-church, I think, the cultural historian Penne suggests that Scrooge's redemption underscores charity and altruism. Forget the church. His turnaround is about charity and altruism. Dickens means to say charity's good and altruism is good. It's not about your morals. Altruism is concern for the well-being, the life of others, independently of personal benefit or reciprocity. So give a damn about the person next to you. Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol in response to British social attitudes towards poverty, particularly child poverty, and wished to use the novella as a means to put forward his arguments against it. The story shows Scrooge as a paradigm of self-interest and the possible repercussions of ignoring the poor, especially children, personified by the allegorical figures of want and ignorance. The two figures were created to arouse sympathy with readers, as was Tiny Tim. Douglas Fairhurst observes that the use of such figures allows Dickens to present his message of the need of charity without alienating his largely middle-class readership. Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol in response to British social attitudes towards poverty. Homeless Kids is the children's hospital. So, this story, the author wrote this story. It really is you and me, Tiny Tim. He wrote this story to prop up Tiny Tim, not Scrooge. He needs to get Tiny. The author wanted to get Tiny Tims off the street and out of the workhouses. To rest good at home. To eat good. Stay out of those graves. Yep. That's neat. The story isn't so much about Scrooge's turnaround. It's not so much about the morals of Scrooge. It's about people need to take care of their families. He wants people to run in the street about it. We need a turkey tonight. Go run through the snow and get it. Don't hoard wealth. That's a really interesting one. He means to say, don't hoard wealth. Spend it on your family. Well, I mean, that's something to think about. Scrooge doesn't have a family. He really did mean to craft a character that has contrast. Scrooge has to care about somebody else's dying family. When was the last time you cared about your neighbor's kids? That's the trouble Scrooge is in. That's crazy. You mean to tell me that if I make X amount of dollars, that ghosts are going to show up in the middle of the night and get me? And tell me to take care of my neighbor's family? It might be. He throws money to the as soon as he wakes up, he throws money to the kid on the street to go buy those turkeys, and he says, "Keep some for yourself." He didn't say, "Bring me back the change." It's interesting. I like that this is a Christmas story. But there's two things. I mean, there's one thing I'm going to talk about. Scrooge is, Scrooge is alone. Scrooge is alone, and he's scared about it. By the end of the story, there's a grim reaper pushing him into a grave. And he's scared about it. And he's scared. The story is saying that he is scared, and the turnaround happens because no one gives a damn about Scrooge. Because Scrooge needs to give a damn about everyone else. But they are toasting Scrooge in this story. The ghost of Christmas Present takes him to the moment of the dinners when they raise a glass to Ebenezer Scrooge. He is on their minds. Cratchit's house says, "In good cheer, thank you, Mr. Scrooge. We are grateful to what you do for us." And in his nephew's house, they say, "Thank you, Mr. Scrooge, for helping us understand Merry Christmas by contrast." I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to. It's all about Tiny Tim. It's all about keeping him out of the grave. Scrooge is faced with he's gonna fall in the grave, and then he's gonna climb out of it and walk the earth with heavy chains and boxes, which will be a labor. So it's saying, I think I said it last time, it's saying, you go to work, Mr. Scrooge. You want us to die out in the cold. Now you're doing labor out in the cold. His friend is his friend is doing that. Are you telling me his friend had to care about Tiny Tim? Maybe he worked in that office too. Maybe Cratchit was working at the same time. Cratchit, how's your family? We can't afford the medicine. Can I please have a raise? I don't want to bother Mr. Scrooge. He. Can I please have a raise so that my son gets the medicine that he needs? No. Mr. Barley, my son isn't well. He can't walk anymore. The doctors aren't sure what's wrong. He needs medicine for his legs. He's strong enough to use the crutches some days. Can I please have a raise so that we can buy the medicine that he needs at Christmas this year? No. Manage your wages better, Cratchit. Mr. Cratchit. Cratchit, we're going to teach you how to be as wealthy as we are. We went to the boarding school and got a first-hand lesson on how to be rich. And now we see that you can handle the same type of lessons with money. You will be rich, Cratchit. Believe you me by the end of this. Don't talk to me about those crutches. In a few years, he'll be dancing on silver crutches. Cratchit, stop bothering me. No, you can't have the raise. I don't know. Well, the story is about Tiny Tim. It's about charity. It's about wealth and charity and the rich being blind. Selfishness. But when you're poor and you finally get money, it's not easy to think of other people. A lot of people huddle and hibernate. A lot of people, once they get money, they want it to last for the rest of their life. If something happens to them, they want it to be there. I remember a story about a couple, an older couple, and in America, and the guy sneezed wrong. I kid you not. The story was he sneezed wrong and he shut down. He blocked his nose and mouth and sneezed by accident. And a chain reaction happened within him. And it sent him to the hospital. He was in ICU for 3 days over a sneeze. It's an older gentleman. I'd have to say in his 60s, 70s. And 3 days of America ICU snatched $83,000 from this family. Their entire life savings was wiped out. Now, I don't know. Do I expect those people? Do I expect those people to... I mean, before and after. Do I expect an old couple with a retirement to be thinking about the neighbor's kid if they're doing well? Can't they run outside and play with tires or something? They have to have food and shelter. Everyone, food and shelter, warmth, some basics. At the same time, they're toasting glasses at Christmas over at Cratchit's house, wearing suits. They've got suits and dresses, and they're toasting glasses, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Scrooge. How about a little more money? Because we got a bad one." I don't know. Cratchit, why don't you sell some furniture? Humbug. You're going to risk my business? Do you know what medical bills can do? I saw that movie, Master and Commander. That kid got hit by, he was on the boat and he got hit by something, some shrapnel or something. He got shot. I forgot. They had to amputate. It, it wasn't at Christmas. I think this part of the story is not at Christmas. Not at Christmas. Oh, I'm enjoying those streams. I don't know themes. Douglas Fairhurst observes that the use of such figures allowed Dickens to present his message of the need for charity without alienating his largely middle class readership. So, good. This is a good job. Good job was done. This story was crafted and designed on purpose to help folks. Charity and altruism. The concern for the well being and life of others. the well-being and life of others. This story is saying, I think, apparently, that people should have concern for the well-being and life of others. He pushes him into the grave, and it's possible that he jumps out of it and says, "Oh no, what did I do?" Whatever the error, I'll go make amends. And the error is you let Tiny Tim die. He was right in front of you. And you have all the money. And Scrooge says, "No, I won't. I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to have a happy Christmas this year." And he starts throwing money out of the window. And he runs over to Bob Cratchit's house. And he says, "We can do better." He says, "Bob, we can do better than some forgotten graves. Let's try spending some money instead." All right, that's a pretty good understanding of A Christmas Carol. Um, these were fun. I think this is I think this is the last one. The first one was 2 hours. So it's two, three, about 4 hours. It, believe it or not, these do take that long. I go on walks exercising and I think about it before I go to sleep. I think about the movies and try to figure them out. I have a notebook. I write things down. I forget things. Some of these some not readings, but some of these, I don't know what you would call it, essays, where I'm walking around exercising and jogging and I figure out what I'm thinking, and it comes in so clear, the understanding of what I want to say. And then I sit down to where I have to actually write it down. And sometimes I forget. Okay, but that was fun. Uh, A Christmas Carol is a Christmas classic. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning into the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And Merry Christmas to you. I hope you have snow this year. Okay, Merry Christmas, everyone.